Today's episode is sponsored by Taylor Health. Taylor Health focus on an integrative approach and specialise in preventative lifestyle factors that can optimise overall health and well-being. From health coaching, looking at lifestyle and behaviours, functional nutrition, meal planning and recipes, phlebotomy services for health screening for a multitude of reasons including health monitoring, fertility testing, pre and post surgical testing, sports and athletic performance testing and hormone monitoring. They also provide therapeutic venesection for individuals with hemochromatosis and those on testosterone replacement therapy. Let Taylor Health prioritise your health and well-being, and be sure to mention the Jim King Show to receive your discount. You can now click on the link in the description of this video for all services. Thank you for everyone watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
I went into the cave and there was skulls all over it, just piled in it, just looking at it. And I put my hand down and I touched one of the skulls and it felt like some energy ran into my body. I thought, whoa, took a shower. I come out and there was a mirror there and I was standing in front of the mirror. And a child was holding my hand. And this little voice kept coming into my head saying, oh, you've got to revenge the children of Cambodia. Just choking him, choking. Eventually he was kicking and trying to get up the rope and stuff like this. He was coughing and spluttering, like he kept trying to go some more. Eventually he stopped kicking. He's lying on the bed. I done the same thing to him, jumped on top of him, wrapped a garrote around his neck, started to choke him. Same again, he started like kicking the legs. And eventually foam, spit running out the side of his mouth, and then he stopped kicking. I went into the back seat, opened the back seat, wrapped it around his neck and started to choke him, and eventually again foam came out his mouth.
There's something I wanted to ask you. There was so much detail there. It's like only the killer would know these things. The kicking of the legs, the foaming out the mouth, the last breath. Did you really kill these people?
A bit of hesitation there.
Lockie Campbell, welcome to the show. It's great to see you, Lockie. It's great to have you on. I know you're based in Indonesia. A very, very powerful story. Many stories there. But this episode will be based on one of your books, The Diary of a Saffron Assassin. But before we dive right into that story, there's also a very powerful story about when you were banged up abroad in China. So if you can briefly talk me through that first.
Well, I was in the UK, sitting out, and I thought I'm going to go out and do a bit of travelling. And this was in about 1976. I went down to London. And there was an advert in the newspaper for painters and decorators for Saudi Arabia. So I went down to King's Cross, got the interview, got the job, and I was sent out to Saudi Arabia, and I worked there for 3 months. And after 3 months, the company paid for a ticket for you to go anywhere you want to in the world. So some people were telling me, oh yeah, go to Colombia or go to Bolivia, go to Brazil. But I decided I wanted to go to India, so I went to India. And the holiday was paid for 2 weeks. But once I got to India, I just enjoyed it that much, I decided to stay. So I stayed in India for about 3 months, then crossed over, went up into Nepal, stayed in Nepal for about a week. Then I went to Thailand. Then from Thailand, I went to Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, I met a group of technology and gold smugglers. And there was a syndicate in this place called Chungking Mansions. And they paid a ticket. It was a 17-day ticket, cost $300 American. It went from Hong Kong to Seoul in South Korea, from South Korea to Tokyo, back to South Korea, stopped off in Taiwan, and then back to Hong Kong. And they loaded you up with technology. Nikon cameras, Hasselblad cameras, Casio calculators, Rolex watches, and about 10 of us went on that trip. And they have somebody who escorts you, and you give the stuff to him and he sells it in the black market. Then you go into Tokyo, you buy the same equipment, back to South Korea, excuse me, then back to Taiwan, then Hong Kong. So this took 17 days. And they also paid you $300 because everything that you were buying was tax-free, and they sold it in Korea, so there was a good profit to be made. So I'd done that about half a dozen times. Then I met some other technology smugglers, and they said, you can also do this same trip, but you can go to India and take it. I thought, well, that sounds good to me, take it to India. Well, I had made enough money to buy the technology myself. So I bought the technology, went to India, and of course, being a hashish smoker, I bought a couple of 100 grams and I brought it back to Hong Kong, which had a big British expat amount of people there, working there, not only from Britain, but from all around the world. So I was sitting smoking a bit of hash, and all my mates that I'd met over there says, oh, come on, man, give us a smoke, give us a joint. So I did. I gave them all joints and shared the hash. And then I done another trip back to India, but this time I brought back a couple of kilos. And they were saying, hey, well, man, give us a bit of hash. I said, listen, you're going to India yourself. Why don't you bloody buy hash when you're there? Oh, no, I said, if we buy hash, we can get arrested and put in jail, but if we buy technology, it maybe get confiscated or we have to pay tax. So that's it. I'm not giving them nothing for free because I'm taking the risk. If I get caught, I'm going to get bust. So that's how it started with me taking hash into Hong Kong. And in one of the trips I was going back into Tokyo, again, I took a couple of 100 grams that time. I went to this bar called the 69, and it was a Rastafarian reggae club. And while I was there, I said to the guys, okay, but smoke a joint. I said, no. If you want to smoke, you have to go upstairs. I said, yeah, okay. So I went upstairs, took out a bit of hash. Everybody's looking, wow. Started smoking, and they all want to smoke, right? So they asked me, do you have any to sell? I said, well, I don't have much to sell. I've got maybe a couple of ounces. They said, can we buy it? I said, yeah, you can buy it. So I sold it to them. And I said, I can bring you more if you want. He said, yeah, okay then. So that was the start of me taking hash to Japan. And I went back to Hong Kong, went back to Delhi, bought another couple of kilo, went back to Japan, sold it in Japan, $10,000 a kilo. So don't forget, in India it only costs $100. So that's like $1,900 profit. So I thought, oh, this is really good. You know, I can put this onto my commodity list. So I went back again to Japan. I went back again to Hong Kong, I should say, then to India, back again to Japan, but I took 5 kilos. And they paid me $50,000 cash. I thought, wow, this is unbelievable. You know, no bartering, nothing, just cash in your hand. So then I took a little trip to the Philippines. Down to the Philippines, I actually bought some land there. Met a girl at the British consul. Came down to the island, went to the island together, bought a bit of land there. I built a house. I opened up a scuba diving school. And I just lay about there for about a year, I think. I still had money, you know, but then the way that I was living, to be honest with you, was a bit over the top. I used to hire a little Cessna aeroplane and fly up to, I'm not the pilot. I got the pilot to fly me up to Manila and buy all the smoked salmons, smoked meats and stuff like this, and champagne, and fly back down to the island and have a really good. So then, one time I was in Hong Kong. I phoned my brother in London. I said, if you get any connection to my son Scott, he says, as it happens, Lockie, he says, Scott is in London just now. I said, you've got his phone number? Yeah, I've got his phone number. So got in touch with my son. I said, do you want to come out travelling? He said, oh, I've got a job, Dad. I'm working in the hospital. I said, oh, yeah, okay, then I just thought I would ask you. Then a couple of minutes later, he said, yeah, okay, then I'll meet you. Let's meet.
How long had it been from you'd seen your son until that time, Lockie?
Whoa, let me think now. 1976, 73. Woo! At least.
So at least 13 years. And that's what's a bit mad about the whole story, because this is where the story gets really interesting. I know there was an episode on Banged Up Abroad on the National Geographic channel, and it was called My Father the Smuggler. And it's more about your son telling this, my dad the smuggler.
My dad the smuggler.
And it's this is where the story gets really interesting, as I said, because he comes over, you find yourself smuggling still, the quantity getting higher, and then you find yourself on the train in Shanghai. Is that right? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, as I say, I phoned him in London, and then he came out and he met me in Islamabad in Pakistan, and then we travelled up to a place called Peshawar in the northwest frontier, no man's land. Everybody, Mujahideen and all that, walking about with Kalashnikovs over their shoulders. I had a friend there called Atola. I'd been in Pakistan a few times, and I used to buy carpets from him and send them to my brother in London as well. But this time, I went with my son, and my intention was to buy 20 kilos of hash. So I did. I bought 20 kilos of hash, packed 5 kilos into a false bottom suit. I had about 7 kilos in the bottom of one of those full zip-up bags. You zip it up like it's bigger and bigger, the bag gets bigger. I think it was 8 kilos in there, wrapped up in T-shirts and dirty socks, pots, pans, nuts, raisins. Just travelling food, but I just wanted to really fill the bag up and just have the hash at the bottom. And it's another 7 kilo in one of those little day packs that you can wear just for trekking around, just a small day pack. Put 7 kilo in there, also just wrapped up in T-shirts and bits and pieces. And my friend Atola got a jeep, hired a jeep for me, and we drove from Peshawar all the way through the Karakorums, up the Karakoram highway to the Chinese border. And my son's like, I said, if they look in the bags, they'll find that. It's very easy to find. I said, don't worry about it. I'd actually done it a couple of times before. I said, they never search your bags. So as it happened, they didn't search the bags, and we just walked through, and that's us in China. And then we went to this town called Kashgar. We sat around there for a couple of days. I tried to get a flight to Shanghai, but I couldn't get one. So we went to another town called Urumqi. And in Urumqi, we got a train. It was a 3-day journey on the train to Shanghai. So we're sitting on the train. It's a 3-day journey, and the train's chick, 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 chick. And you're just looking out the window. And then the following day, I said, I'm going to go outside and look out the other window, just for a different view. And I'm smoking a joint.
So you're on the train with your son. You booked it. It was a 3-day trip, and you've got the 20 kilos of hash in the different bags.
Yeah, well, I mentioned that I had 5 kilos in a false bottom suitcase, 8 kilos in a zip-up bag, and 7 kilos in a day pack. And sitting on the train, looking out the window, as it's a 3-day journey, it was quite boring. So I left the cabin. We had a private cabin, and I left the cabin to look out the other window, and I was smoking a joint. And one of the guards came along and pointed to his nose and waved his finger So I assumed that he means no smoking. So I just had the joint, I just threw it out the window, the little top part of the window, went back into the cabin, and I said to Scott, I just got stopped there by the ticket collector, and I think he knows that I was smoking hash, but I'm not sure. So my son says, what do you think we should do? He said, shall we just throw the dope out the window? I said, no, 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 no. We sat for about half an hour thinking about it. Then I said, we just jump off at the next station. And then that's what we'll do. So about another hour later, this ticket collector guy comes to the cabin, knocks on the door, and puts his hand out. In English, he says, give me, give me. And I thought he was meaning the hash. And stupidly, I put my hand in my pocket, a little bit like that in my pocket, and I handed it to him. Put it up to his nose. And he went, opium! And I'm saying, no, 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 it's not opium. No, 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 no. He said, give me ticket. So I put my hand in my pocket, handed him the ticket. And he just left. So that was the last we saw of him. And then maybe another few hours later, the train drew into another station. Me and my son just jumped off the train, walked towards the exit, got there. Scott handed him his ticket and walked through. And I'm looking in my pocket for my ticket. And I forgot I gave my ticket to that guy on the train guard. So I tried to give the guy at the gate some money. He said, no, 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 no. So I'm standing there. Then the guy on the train sticks his head out and shouted something. And the guys at the gate had like army uniforms and they had guns. And then this ticket collector comes down, starts talking Chinese. I've not got a clue what they're talking about. These two guards take me and my son to the waiting room. And we're sitting in the waiting room. And as I said, there was like 7 kilos in this little day pack thing. So I start taking it out the day pack and sliding it under the chair that I was a bench, sliding it under the bench that I'm sitting on. And then sit back up again, thinking everything's okay. Then a couple of minutes later, this woman comes out of this door in the waiting room, shouts to the guard at the exit door, and he comes over and she points underneath the chair, and that's where the hash is. So the guy starts pulling it out, putting it against the wall, and then the next thing you know, they must have phoned the police, and they came to the station, the waiting room, picked us up, and then took us to a hotel. And we were in the hotel. They separated the Scott in one room, me in a different room. And oh my God. And then another following morning, the PSB, Public Security Bureau from Shanghai arrived. And they started to interrogate us, this and that, asking questions. And I'd already told Scott, look, regardless of what they ask you, just say, I don't know anything. I'm just traveling with my father. And that's what he did. Then he took us from that hotel into Shanghai, took us to the detention center, unpacked, separated us again, unpacked my bags, itemized everything that was inside. And I'm picking all the stuff out of this big bag. And there's 8 kilos lying at the bottom of it. I just left it lying. I just left it there. And then they just told me, put your stuff back in the bag. So I put the stuff back in the bag. They locked me up in a cell with 10 other guys. And I kept asking, where's my son? Where's my son? But get no response. So 10 in a cell and a hole in the ground to shit in. You couldn't, no bath or shower or nothing like that. And then after 10 days, the British consul came to visit me. And they said, oh, your son has been released and went to Hong Kong. And I thought, oh my God, that's fantastic. Scott's been released. And I was in that detention centre for 10 months and I got an indictment. The first indictment I got was possession of cannabis. And the maximum sentence you could get was 7 years. And I was thinking, wow, 7 years, it's a long time, you know. I actually went up to court, had a trial, went back to the detention cells, and I'm just waiting for them to call me back to the court to get my sentence. And I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. A couple of weeks passed, they came again, handed me another indictment. Transporting cannabis, maximum sentence, death sentence, life sentence, and the minimum sentence 15 years. I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? But, you know, I don't speak Chinese. I can not do nothing. I get a lawyer. Eventually, I went up to court and I get sentenced to 15 years.
When we spoke about it previously, Lockie, you told me because of the options, 15 years, a life sentence, or the death penalty, when you were sentenced to 15 years, in the dock in that moment, it was like a celebration. But when you went down the stairs to the cell, it was like, it's mad how the human mind works, because after that, you started thinking, 15 fucking years in China.
No, you're spot on. Because you've got the death sentence on your indictment, when he said 15 years, I've said this before, but while I was standing there, my ass was flapping like a choking goldfish. But then when he says 15 years, I went, inside I went, yes, you know. Then when I went downstairs into the holding cells again, waiting to get transferred back to the detention, 15 years. 15 years for a bit of hash. That's unbelievable. So it just shows you how quickly your mind changes. From 1 minute you're elated, thinking, wow, I never get the death sentence. And then flipping back around again, thinking, wow, giving me 15 years for a fucking lump of hash. That's ridiculous. So the mind changes very quickly. And then eventually I went back to the detention centre, right? Stayed there for about another week or two. Then you got to collect your bags. I'm getting transferred to the real prison now, the main prison. And then when I collect my bags, the big bag with the 8 kilos, the zip-up one, is not there. I'm thinking, how's that possible? The only way it's possible is Scott took it to Hong Kong. I'm thinking, oh my God, this fucking guy bigger balls than fucking Kublai Khan, you know, taking that 8 kilos to Hong Kong after getting out the detention centre. So that really blew my mind. I thought, fantastic. Then I get transferred to the jail. So I'm getting in the jail now. I've got 5 kilos still inside the suitcase.
Your son took the bag out the prison and it had the 5 kilo or the 8 kilo in it.
Yeah, it had 8 kilo in it, and I took the 5 kilo into the main prison. Then I got a visit from my youngest son. I handed him out the case, and after the visit, a couple of days later, the Public Security Bureau come back up to the prison and told me my son had been arrested with that 5 kilo, and told me that I'd handed him out during the visit, which I did do, but I said, yeah, but when I handed that out, there was nothing inside, it was only clothes. So there was a whole sort of a threatening and telling me, if you don't do this and if you don't confess, and your son will go to jail. But I just had to stick to my guns. I couldn't tell them that I knew that there was anything in it, because I would have definitely get shot in the back of the head. And so they held my son. It ended up they held my son for about 6 months, and he got fined £5,000 and went back to Glasgow. Arrived back in Glasgow the day before Christmas.
So I know you were.
That was me. I was in the main prison.
I know you
caused a lot of ruckus, you know, with the public security and the prison guards, and because I'd already been in the detention centre 10 months and they hadn't found that hash, and now I was in the main prison and they still hadn't found the hash. So a lot of heads were rolling, you know. The Communist Party maybe demoting some of the guards and stuff like this. But the rumours all around the jail was like, oh, this, with the Chinese foreign guy, can you believe it? He'd 5 kilos in the jail. So I became like a local hero because I outsmarted the authorities who we were all against. And life in that prison was, the cell was only 8 foot by 3 foot. You had a wooden bucket inside to piss and shit in. And every morning you had to carry that bucket down 3 flights of stairs. There was a big wooden trough there. You poured your poop and your shit in it, and then hosed down your bucket back to your cell. Sat in the cell until about 7. Then we could get outside, just sit out in the corridor. There was a big long table, but I mean, if I had to tell you the whole story, it would really take too long because opposite where we sat, there was death row, and actually 1 floor below us was also death row. The floor below us, the people would be executed within 10 days. And there was a little black box round there, a sort of a half box, and there was a counsellor inside, and the death row prisoners would go in there, and they could write a letter to their family member or their wife or whoever it may be before execution. And then they were also offered, did they want to donate any of their organs? And if they donated organs like heart or liver or whatever it may be, they would get an extra last meal, maybe an extra egg or an extra chicken wing or something. So that was quite horrible,
I think they were taking their organs anyway, regardless of whether they consented or not. Is that correct?
Well, that's what I would assume. Definitely. It's a massive industry in China, not only in China, but people coming mostly from Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, they go to mainland China if they want to get an organ replaced. And they're quite expensive as far as I know. So I don't see why they would shoot them in the back of the head and then take their organs. What I think they would do is they would take their organs and that would be it. They just take them. So it ended up, it was a terrible place. It was rat infested, and
there was also a time there, Lockie, where you spent some time in the torture cell. That was in the first prison. Can you give some highlights on that?
But the cells there, the torture cells there wasn't that bad. They just put you in your cell. There was no mattresses or anything like that. But you couldn't wash, you couldn't brush your teeth. As I said, there was a wooden bucket there to shit and piss in. And I was only there for 7 days. But you piss and shit in the bucket every day. You don't get to change it until you finish your confinement. But I was in that prison for about 6 years. Yeah, that's the second prison. Right, that's the next. So after 6 years, I get transferred to another prison. And that's the one where I get hung up with my hand in the handcuffs. And that one.
See when you were imprisoned in there, Lockie, and you were talking about like executions and stuff, did you see or hear any executions in that yard?
No, they only televised it. They televised it for you to see. When I got arrested, I told you I was in the detention centre, and during the interrogation, they had a big screen, and in the screen, it shows you a truck driving along the road, and it turns into this like a football stadium, and there's hundreds of people all around, and they take these people out of the back of the truck, and they've got rope around their neck, and their hands are tied behind their back, and they've got a placard on their chest. It tells you the crime that they committed. And then they march them into the ground, bent down in one knee, and then knock them down to their 2 knees, and then just shoot them in the back of the head. Bam, 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 bam. So they made us watch that, made me watch it during interrogation, and told me, if you don't confess, this is what's going to happen to you. So that was in the first prison, the one that I took the 5 kilos of hash into. So that was something. But then also, they showed it on TV, on TV, in the prison, there's a whole reform system, and they keep pumping it into your head. And so sometimes there'd be a program showing you, example, Communist Party member who get done for corruption, maybe 1, 2, 3, sometimes up to 5, 6, and they get done for corruption, then they get taken and they get executed. And it's just like a warning to everybody, like, don't go against the Communist Party. So I've seen that a few times.
So I think it's very important, Lockie, we can maybe have another highlight of your time spent in the second prison, and then we'll just move it on right into the Saffron assassin.
Yeah, okay then. So when I went to the second prison, it was brand new. And in the cell, there was two beds, and you had a little dressing table, and actually they had a veranda at the back of the cell. So you went in the front of your cell, and you could walk out the back and open a veranda, but there was bars going up and concreted into the roof, so you couldn't escape or anything. But it was just amazing that you could actually sit outside at night time and watch the stars. You know what I mean? And so that was a really clean prison. And outside of the cells, there was 3 toilets, real toilets where you could flush and stuff like that. And there was also a shower. You could take a shower. But the whole regime was the brainwashing, they call it Shishan reform, ideological reform, was a lot stricter. So the surroundings were better, but every week we had to write what's called an ideological report, telling them that we're sorry that we committed a crime and we could have damaged people in the society, and that we were greedy, trying to make money. And you had to do this every week. And so, yeah, that was more of a brain washing sort of a situation for the last 6 years. Yeah, so you're talking about getting hung up by the hand. So funny, I mentioned Joe Steele at the beginning, and I got a paper clipping of Joe super glued or glued to Buckingham Palace gates. And while I was in the jail, I got the British consul to buy me canvases and paints. And I done a painting of Joe super glued to the Buckingham Palace gates. And another one of my brothers sitting in a cell like a skeleton because he was on a fast for justice. And I was getting a visit from the consul that week. So you've got to hand in anything you want to hand out, you've got to hand it into the office first. So I went into the office and I handed them the 2 paintings. And they open them up and they look at them. And they see Joe glued to Buckingham Palace gates. And they're saying to me, no, man. They think that I'm sending out a painting of me glued to the gates. I'm saying, no, this is my friend. And I have the newspaper clip. And I take it and I show them the newspaper clip. And they say, no. So more or less tell me, you can no send those paintings out. So I said, stick your communist thinking up your fucking arse. And they just pounded me. And that's when they took me to that was the dungeon cells. Fucking terrible place. Sleep on the floor. A piss-stained, woolly, shitty blanket. You had to stand up for an hour, sit down for an hour, stand up for an hour, all day. So the first day in there, they handcuffed me up to the cell on my tiptoes and left me like that all night, all day and all night. And then the following morning, they released the handcuffs, had cuts. Still got little marks on my wrist where the handcuffs cut into my wrist. So that was a terrible terrible, terrible experience. But I've done that a few times. It's difficult to explain, but I mean, your brain gets boiled, you know, every day it's Mao Zedong and Chou En-lai and the Communist Party's great, and then fucking 1997, Hong Kong goes back to China, and they want us to sit and fucking watch it all on the TV, but I'm in my room painting, I don't want to do it. So I say, no, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it. Again, they come in and, hey, you have to watch it. Oh, go fuck yourself. Stick your fucking comments thinking up your ass again. Bang, bang, bang. Again, locked up. That cost me 2 years remission, because in the Chinese prison reform system, oh, it's terrible, terrible. I mean, you can't believe it. So you get, if you behave yourself and, you know, do what you're told, and maybe go outside, pick weeds in the football field, you can get 8 points every month. And 12 months is 96 points. But you need 90 points. You only need 90 points, and you get this small certificate. It's called a Qigong. And if you get 2 Qigongs, so first year you get 1 Qigong, second year you get a Qigong, the third year you can get your sentence reduced. And the judge comes back to the prison and they re-sentence you. So the first sentence reduction I got was from the old prison. They gave me 10 months. So I think that's good. So because I've got these 2 Qigongs, and because of this drug exhibition, I've done an anti-drug exhibition. I've done 40 posters. And they were talking about, oh, Campbell's really good, you know. He'll get a Lee gun. Now, a Lee gun means automatically you get 2 years cut off your sentence. 2 years. So, as I saw, oh, go fuck yourself, stick your communist thinking up your ass, bang, locked up in the cell again, fucking piss and shit blanket covering. You can't brush your teeth, you don't get a wash. So that's like 7-10 days, no wash, no brush your teeth, nothing. And I lost that 2 years remission. So, you know, it really, it's again, as I say, it's difficult to explain because it's get pumped into you daily. And then I told you every week you've got to write this ideological report talking about how good the Communist Party is, how bad you are, and British people occupied China, and the fucking raid of massacre of Nanjing, and the British, no, the Opium Wars. You're like, oh, there's nothing to do with me, the Opium Wars, the fucking Nanjing massacre. I wasn't even born. But they keep pumping it into you to let you know we don't forget you British fucks.
You spent a total of 12 years banged up in China's most notorious prisons, as you just explained to us there. Talk me through when you did get released then, Lockie, because that again's a mad experience.
Yeah, that was excellent. So eventually, at 15 years, so I done 12 years in 4 months. So that worked out that I got like 2 years, 8 month reduction. So in the last year, they gave me a year reduction. The last one, I think, okay, I go out now. I know I'm going out next year, 100%. So my brother came over to visit me. My brother Robert brought me over a beautiful suit, nice shirt, tie, pair of shoes. So I'm just waiting for that day to come. And eventually the day comes, pack my bags, go downstairs. There's a bus in the basketball yard. Get onto the bus, wave bye-bye to the guys. Because it changed. A lot of different prisoners come in and out. First there was me, a Welsh guy, an English guy, and an American guy. But by the time I left, there was like 5 Pakistanis, 1 Burmese, 2 Malaysians, 3 Japanese, 1 Iranian, 2 Africans. So it was really an international place by the time I left. And it just said bye-bye. And on the way to the airport, get to the airport, I've got all my paintings. had over 160 paintings that I'd done while I was there. That's including 40 of the anti-drug posters. And went to the airport. I didn't have a passport. The British Embassy gave me a travel paper, so I could travel to the UK. And then I got into the airport, checked in, went to the departure lounge, sitting there. You know, you can smell this like international perfumes, and you can see whiskey and vodka, and you know all the luxuries they've got in the duty free store. And eventually, I got onto the plane. I was sitting on the plane, and they've got the little TV screens that you can pull down and watch the TV. And I was sitting, and I turned on this channel, and it was anger management. I started watching it. What do you call him? Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson, that's right.
Watching it, and I just burst into tears like it was that madness. It was exactly the same as that jail. I just came out of that jail, my head was like meow. And that Jack Nicholson movie just put it all together, and I went I laughed and laughed and laughed as well, but I had tears running, snot running down my nose. I was sniffling, and oh man. And then, of course, they come around, you want some drink? No drink, I don't drink. Just ate my food. Arrived back in London, stopped me there. I said, why are you stopping me? He'd come to the office, took me into an office and asked me, are you harboring any revenge against the Chinese government? I said, no. And he just asked a couple of questions. Where are you going? I'm going to my brother's house. Is somebody meeting you? Yeah, I'm not sure if anybody's meeting me. I don't know. And then they let me go through into the arrival lounge. And a friend of mine's, Jeff Ferranti, an Italian guy who I met in Korea years and years and years ago, he met me at the airport. And then I just took a train into Bethnal Green and stayed with my sister-in-law. And then a couple of days in London, I went back up to Glasgow, met my brother, my sons. Great to be home again. So that's a quick sort of a rundown of what happened. But if people read the book, there's a lot more incidents and a lot more detail and what happened and fighting. And they had a thing that was called the cooling party example. It's so hot there, you know. So they take everybody out into the yard, the big yard outside. It's got a basketball court there also, but much bigger. There was 8 buildings, and one building was only for women. But inside the same jail, but one block was only for the women. And they have what they call a cooling party. So me, the Welsh guy, the German guy, and the American guy, we formed a band called ourselves the Reformers. So, and then we all went on stage and were singing, help, I need somebody help. And one day I was eating beans in Smoky Joe's Cafe. I just sitting, and everybody's like, ah! You'd have thought we were the fucking Beatles, man. They were all screaming and, ah, yeah. Then they took us over to the women's wing, and we'd done the same performance there. Oh my God, so many beautiful young women, you know, with their grey uniform on and the white shirt and their prison number. But of course, you could no touch. So there's lots of incidents like that. There was sports days where you had competition, tug of war, football, basketball, card games, ping pong. So a lot of bad things happened. And there was some good sides of it as well. Well, not too bad, if you know what I mean.
Yes, definitely.
So,
Lockie,
there's that
if
somebody's really interested in the story, they can purchase the book on Amazon.
Definitely. Shanghaied and Shackled. So much more to the story there. But now we'll be moving into this other story, your other book, The Diary of a Saffron Assassin. Because I know you spent a bit of time in Glasgow you started getting up to your old tricks again, getting yourself involved in trouble, drugs, and you thought to yourself, I need to get away from here. And you were looking at different places, retreats, and
That's
you ended
right.
up setting out to Cambodia for a meditation retreat. Is that correct?
That's correct. 10 day Vipassana meditation retreat. So that's what happened. I went out to Cambodia and arrived over the border, and there was lots of people waiting about because lots of people crossed the border going into Cambodia, and then we all jumped onto a bus, and the bus is going through, but taking it to a small town called Battambang, and sitting on the bus, and then a couple of hours later the bus stops, get off, and this American guy asked me, "Yeah, man, you want to share a taxi to a guest house or a hotel?" I said, "I don't know any places here. I've never been here." He said, "I've been here before. I come every year. Let's share a taxi." So we shared a taxi and arrived at the guest house, and he said to me, "You want to go and see the chicken shacks, the chicken shack tonight?" I said, "Chicken shack?" And I was thinking, "No, what's the chicken?" Yeah, I said, "Yeah, okay." He said, "Okay, I'll pick you up I'll knock on your door at 7:30. So he knocked on my door. 7:30. He's got cowboy boots and all that on, like all suave looking. I've got a pair of shorts on and sandals. So we jump on the back of two motorbikes and go to this place called, let's say, the Chicken Shack. It's what it is. It's in the countryside, and it's all thatched roof, straw thatched roofs, bamboo walls, and it's brothel, and lots of young women walking around, and there's a mama san. So the mama san, she knew, his name was Conrad, she knew Conrad. "Oh, Conrad," and sit down, get the beers. And I said, "No, I don't drink. I don't drink." So anyway, he started lifting up like some girl's t-shirt and looking at them and squeezing them a little bit. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, what the fuck's he up to? It's a bit, like checking a fucking cow or a sheep at a meat market. And he says, "Yeah, man, you got to check and see if the bitches have had any pups." I'm thinking, the bitches have any pups? I want to punch the cunt right in the mouth, The bitches get any pups. And then the mama san, he starts bargaining with the mama san. The mama san says $10, and he's bartering with her for $5, right? For a short time with this young girl. I'm getting myself out of here. So I said, "Look, listen, I'm leaving." So I left, jumping back in the motorbike, went back to the guest house, lying in my bed, and I'm thinking, "Whew, what a fucking weirdo. But I never really paid too much attention to it because my mission was to get into a Buddhist meditation retreat.
You
And
see, was that the next day, Lockie? The next day you were going to this Buddhist retreat?
that's right. The following day I was going to go to the retreat.
So I know you had
And
a bit of a bad experience with the retreat. You weren't getting the right vibes. When I'm reading the book, you didn't spend too much time there. It was a tape playing. You were supposed to be meditating to this, and then you ended up going like a solo walk into like the caves. Can you
yeah,
talk me
that's
through that?
right. Yeah, I checked into the meditation centre, and then you go up early at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then go to the meditation hall, start sitting down, and I'm expecting a teacher to be there, but they just switched on a cassette tape, and the cassette tape's talking this and that, and breathe in, breathe out, and clear your mind, and I'm thinking, what the fuck? It just didn't appeal to me at all, sit and listen to a cassette tape. So I went back that afternoon, went back to, I had a little bit of lunch, which was just rice and vegetable. Then back to the room for a half an hour, and then back to the meditation room, and the same again, the machine talking and talking and talking. Done that for a couple of hours. Then we went outside and done a walking meditation, just walking around. And then eventually around about 4 o'clock, go back to the room that I was in. I thought to myself, I'm not going to stay here. I'm not going to sit in a fucking room listening to a cassette tape talking. So I slept there that night. The following morning, I went to the reception, told the girl at the reception I was leaving. So no problem. So I didn't have much luggage, just a small bag. Went outside, onto the road. And in Cambodia, motorbikes go along the road and you can stop them. They don't have to be taxis. Anybody, you can stop them. And if they stop, they'll take you where you want to go and you just pay them. So I went outside onto the road and I was walking along the road and I crossed into this field. On the way there, actually, the guy gave me a map and saying, you here, and I wasn't interested. I just wanted to get to the meditation retreat. But when I went outside again, I was walking along and I went into the field. I saw like a big sort of a scaffolding with a carving of a Buddha's head. And I'm walking in and walking across, and there was this cave there. And I went into the cave, and there were skulls all over it, just piled up. Hundreds of skulls, just all over. Child skulls, men's skulls. Well, I don't know if men, but adult skulls and children's skulls. And I was just looking at it, and I put my hand down and I touched one of the skulls, and it felt like some energy ran into my body. And I thought, whoa, I'm going to get out of here. So I just immediately left the place and walked onto the road again, stopped a motorbike, jumped in the back of the motorbike, took me back to the little guest house, and then went up, took a shower. I come out and there was a mirror there and I was standing in front of the mirror and a child was holding my hand. Ooh, I turned to look down. There's nothing there. I said, what? I hadn't smoked any dope or anything. So dried myself and cleaned myself up. And then I went out. I went into a Chinese place. Had some cookies, coffee, and you know those fortune cookies. You can unwrap the cookie and it tells you your fortune inside. So I bought some of them, stuck in my pocket, went back to the hotel, and I was just lying about, and this little voice kept coming into my head saying, oh, you've got to revenge the children of Cambodia. I'm thinking, actually, I had some weed. While I was at the retreat, I met two guys. One was a young Cambodian guy, but he was brought up and lived in America. And then the other guy, I think he was Swedish. And so when we checked into the meditation centre, we went out for a walk and went across the road and sat down. And the little Cambodian guy shouted out to somebody, and then they met and he bought a bag of weed. And we just sat smoking the weed out in the field. Then we went back to the meditation retreat. So I still had some weed with me. So I'm thinking, when I woke up, I never smoked anything. I'm thinking, and then I'm seeing somebody holding my hand, and I look around, there's nobody there. So I just lay on the bed, and it kept coming round in my mind about this Conrad guy. And the little voice saying, yeah, you've got to take revenge for the children in Cambodia. And I was just go away, it's just imagination. Anyway, I lay there. Then the following morning I got up round about 5 o'clock, because all the monks go out at 5 o'clock collecting the alms and stuff like that. And I'm looking out the window, see the monks walking around, and again the voice is saying, you've got to revenge the children of Cambodia. So I put on when I arrived in Asia, I stopped off in Thailand first before I crossed the border into Cambodia. And I bought this orange robe because I was going into the meditation retreat, and in my mind, after that retreat, I was going to go into a monastery and then become a monk. So I'd already bought this robe, which you can buy at the King's Palace in Bangkok. Anyway, I put on this robe and it was like I was on autopilot. I just opened my door, walked along, came to Conrad's door, and I knocked on his door. There was no answer. So I just turned around to walk away. Then the door opened. I went, oh, hello, hello. I just came to tell you that I'm leaving today. I just want to say goodbye. And I walked towards him. As I walked towards him at his door, I just pushed him into his room. He fell onto his back and I just jumped on top of him. And I had just, it's like a garrote, like a rope around my waist of the robe. Took that, I had that and wrapped it around his neck and I started, well, I was on top of him first. I wrapped it around his neck and then turned him around. That he was on top of me. And I was just choking and choking him. Eventually he was kicking and trying to grab the rope and stuff like this. He was coughing and spluttering. I just kept trying to go some more and more and more and more. Eventually he stopped kicking, stopped moving. And I just looked at him. I said, look, he's dead. You know, so I just I spat on him. And before I'd left my room, the little mantras I was telling you about, the good luck, good fortune cookies, I wrote a little mantra on it, oh man, he had me hum. And as he was lying there, I spat on him and I turned him around. He had a pair of shorts on, boxer shorts, and I just stuck this mantra up his arse and I left. And I'm out now, I get my bag, I go outside, walk past all the monks, keep my head down, keep walking. And then I took a boat to Siem Reap. I just sat on the boat, my mind again all puzzled and mixed up, and what the fuck have I done? People know that me and him checked into that hotel. They've seen us together. We went to the chicken shacks together, and they're going to find him dead in his room. The cops are going to be onto me very soon. But it was too late. I'd already done it. So I just sat on the boat, and then I arrived in Siem Reap and stayed there for a few days. Went to a museum here and a museum there. Because my original plan was after I came out the monastery or the meditation retreat, I'd planned to meet this friend of mine's, Dawn, who I met when I was in Glasgow before I left for Cambodia. And he'd been to Cambodia before as well. And he said, so let's meet up in a place called Sihanoukville. And you'll be able to find me easily. I go to this place every morning for breakfast, Gordon's Cafe. So as I say, I was in Siem Reap, a few days, travelled around, looked at some sites. So that was I headed to Sihanoukville.
So see, after that was your first murder then, right? How did you feel after the killing, the first killing? Did you feel any regret, any sorrow, any guilt, or did you feel good about it?
Well, actually, to be honest with you, I didn't feel. I just thought he deserved that. You know, the way he was touching the people up and talking about them, these bitches get any pups and stuff. I thought better rid of some cunt like that. You know. So I didn't really feel remorse, but what I did feel was a bit of fear because I didn't think about it, you know, and it wasn't something that I'd planned. It was a sort of an impulse, this little voice, help the people, help the children, revenge for the children of Cambodia. And it just like on impulse, I just went to his room, garroted him. And then when I'm sitting on the boat, I've got time to think now. Then I started thinking, oh, maybe the cops will be onto me. But as it happened, nothing really happened. I stayed, I told you, in Siem Reap for a couple of days. And then I went to Sihanoukville and I met up with this friend of mine's, Dawn. And then we rented a villa. And yeah, life was pretty. Oh, sorry. On the way to Sihanoukville, I met this guy, very spoke very good English, you know, like, oh, yes, old boy, how are you? And I started chatting to him. It was a six-hour journey. And I just started to unload on him. I started to tell him about, because I looked like a bouncing board. I started telling him about my time in jail in China and this and that. And I just wanted to see how he felt about it. And so after a few hours chatting away, he said to me, "Do you mind if I give your story to my friend Andrew Drummond? He lives in Bangkok. He's a news reporter." I said, "No, I don't mind." So I gave him my email address. So that was the first thing. Then when I got to Sanookville, I met up with Don, and we rented a villa, go down to the beach, and just relaxing. And it was after about 2 weeks, I got an email from this guy Andrew Drummond, and he said, "Do you mind if I come over to Cambodia and interview you?" I thought, "Yeah, okay." So I gave him my phone number. Then I had a phone number. I replied to his email, gave him my phone number. A few days later, he phoned. I'm in Sanookville. Where can we meet? So I gave him directions where we could meet. So I met up with him, and we went to a temple. I was teaching English and to the monks and to some orphans there. Not full time, but I was going a couple of days a week. We went there. He took some photographs of me at the temple, teaching the kids. I'd done some painting when I was there. I started on one painting. He took some pictures of that. And then he was heading back to Thailand, and he says, "We'll meet you at the beach tomorrow, because we're leaving the following day." And I said, yeah. There was two of them. One was a photographer. The other one was the guy who wrote the article. So I met them at the beach, and my friend Don came with me, and they were drinking beer, and just out of the blue, this is how the story began, for the name, I should say. He says, "You're the Saffron assassin." I thought, "What? What made you say that?" He says, "Well, your time in prison, and your brother's a gangster, and your family's criminals, and you're here in Indonesia, and you're here in Cambodia, shaved head and wearing an orange saffron suit." I said, "Aye, yeah. It's a good name for a story, But no, I'm not the Saffron assassin." But it just sort of went into my mind. I thought, it's a strange thing to say, And then that night we met in town, up red light area. They were back. We went to a French restaurant. They paid for the food, and they asked me, "Do you, take any girl you want? No problem. We'll pay for it." And I thought, "Hey, don't talk to me like that. I'm not interested in going out with these girls." So they were quite surprised, that I refused. And actually, before they left, he said the reporter guy says, "You should keep your eyes and ears open if you hear about any stories and stuff." Because he told me stories about foreigners being murdered in Thailand, meeting a Thai girl, getting married, buying a house, and then once they bought the house, her brothers would murder them and leave them in a field. That's the stories they were telling me. I'm thinking, "Oh my God, this sounds terrible." But he said, "So keep your eyes and ears open. If you hear any stories, send me an email. You'll get paid for it. If the story works out, you'll get paid for it." I thought, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Anyway, they left. And then a couple of weeks later, I get an email from him. "Can you help me out? Can you go to Phnom Penh? There is a policeman who's kidnapping children and selling them into prostitution." I thought, I'm thinking, what are you telling me this for? So I went back to the villa, and I was telling my friend Don about it. He said, "Oh, fuck these people. You know what like they are? They're always looking for fucking highlights and big stories, and don't get involved in it." But I don't know, it just, little voice in my ear, the little fucking spirit. "Yeah, you go, you help the people of Cambodia." And again, back in my ear. I thought she'd gone. And then, so I eventually did that. I went up to Phnom Penh, and I met this guy called Gavin from Australia. And then he told me the story that this cop has been kidnapping girls and putting them into a brothel. But we need to catch him red-handed. We know he's doing it, but when he's doing it, or How he's doing it at what time, we don't know. They've put some people on him to watch him, but they never get the chance to catch him. So he said to me, can you go to the brothel and ask for a girl, maybe age 10 or 12? I went, what? He says, yeah, if you go to the brothel, ask the mama san, you want a girl aged 10 to 12, she'll send the cop out to pick her up and bring her back. He'll kidnap her. And I'm thinking, hey, you fucking crazy, are you guys? You have your fucking hit. You want me to go and take part of a young girl being kidnapped to take to a brothel so that you can catch the cop? I said, you're fucking crazy, mate. I was ready to punch him in the mouth as well. He said, yeah, but we need help. Don't worry about it. He won't get away with it. This time, when he takes the child, we'll follow him and catch him red-handed. I'm thinking, it sounded like a bit over the top, you know. But again, the little voice in the head, yeah, you have to help him, help him. He's a good man. He's helping the children. He helps orphans. He works in an orphanage and he's helping children. And she's biting my ear this way and I'm trying to get away from it. But anyway, for whatever reason, I agreed to do it. So he takes me to where the brothel is. So I know. So I go back again in the evening. I go back in the evening, get into the brothel. The mama san's there. There's lots of girls sitting around, like porcelain dolls. The mama san, yes, I help you, sir. I say, yeah, can you get me a young girl, maybe virgin, age 10, 12? Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes. You come back tonight. How much? $300. So $300. So I'm playing along, like I really know what I want. A $300 a bit expensive. How about 200? Oh no, sir. Virgin. Nice. $300. So I think, yeah, okay then. So you give me deposit. So I give her $100. And I goes away. She told me to come back that night. So I goes back at night, goes in there, comes her, takes me into a little room behind a curtain, and there's this little girl sitting there like this. And she said, okay, you pay me money now. I say, yeah, I'm taking her to my house. No, sir, you cannot take it. You have to do here. She's too young. You cannot take her to hotel or take her to house. This Gavin and them were supposed to arrest this guy who picks the girl up. Right?
That's
so
right.
when I went
right.
there, she shouldn't have been there. But she was still there, so that means that they'd missed her. So I paid the money, take her away, leave the brothel where they think I'm taking her to my hotel or to my house, and I phone that Gavin. I say, hey, I've got the girl with me. You're supposed to have stopped her from getting into the brothel. And he said, oh, we're sorry, we missed him and he got away. So Gavin came and picked her up and then took her to wherever it was, an orphanage. And then I met him the following day and I was sort of telling him, yeah, man, don't get me involved in stuff like this again, because that wasn't supposed to happen. You were supposed to prevent it from happening. Then I asked him, what about the cop? Yeah, we're still looking at him, still trying to catch him doing it on, red-handed. So what then happened was I asked him, do you know where this guy lives? And he said, yeah, I know where he lives. I said, look, I don't even know if you're telling me a fucking true story or not. I think you're trying to entrap me. Picking up a little girl in a brothel and then I'll get arrested for fucking being a paedophile. So you you have to prove to me where this guy lives. So eventually he takes me, he had a motorbike, jumped in the back of his motorbike, he takes me to the place, sat in a little noodle place outside, and there was a gated house He said, that's where he lives, in there. I thought, okay. Okay, so I sort of, I believe you, okay. And that was it. So I left, went back to my guest house, and then I thought, I'm going back there the following morning myself. So I went back the following morning, had the robes on, and dressed, like I was a begging bowl. But the monks all walk, they all just sort of walk together. Some go this and, just a mixture of walking around. I just joined in walking with them. And I walked over to the gate, pulled the gate open, and there was a young girl in the garden cleaning up, and she thought that I was in there to get alms. And I just said, thank you, and I just continued walking, and I climbed in the window. There was a window, the ground floor window. Climbed in the window, looked around the house, and I could see a policeman's jacket hanging up, and a sort of a hat rack in the hallway. And I looked about and I opened one of the doors, and he was lying in his bed sleeping. So I wrote out some notes with sort of a red ink that we were watching you. You are a child molester. You're kidnapping children. Just little message like that. And I had it with me. So I went in. He's lying on the bed. I done the same thing to him. Jumped on top of him, wrapped the garrote around his neck, and started to choke him. Same again. Started kicking the legs, and eventually foam, spit running out the side of his mouth, and then he stopped kicking. And then I just throw these bits of paper on the ground. I had this mantra, stuck that up his ass, and I just walked out the place and I left. So that was the second one.
So that was the Saffron assassin strikes again.
Yeah, sort of as I say, it was just this voice keep getting into my head all the time, And then I went back again to Sanookville. And I was renting a villa with Dawn, but I left that villa and I rented a little shop. And the ground floor was like a coffee shop, and then at the back of that there was one bedroom, and at the back of that a small garden. So I started living there, and didn't have many customers, I'm just selling coffee. That was it, coffee and soft drinks. And some children used to run about and come into the shop. Yeah, he'll make noises and all that. I go chase them away. But there was this one guy who used to come every day, and the children used to always sit with him. And I'd met a French guy also when I was there, and I started chatting with him. And sometimes he would come round. So me and him would sit chatting. And then one day he said to me, that bastard there is a paedophile. I said, who? And I look over, the guy who also sits there, the children sitting around and sitting on his knee and chatting away and stuff like that. I said, hey, don't make trouble. Don't make any trouble. Leave the guy alone. He says, he's a fucking paedophile. He said, watch this. So I went over to the guy and started calling him, you fucker, you're a paedophile. You're always here playing with the children. You're a fucking paedophile. And the guy never said nothing. Then he come back out to my table. You see, which man would let you go over and call him a fucking paedophile and no punch you in the mouth? I told you he's a paedophile. I said, look, I don't want to cause any trouble, but yeah, I'll keep my eye open in the future, okay? Yeah, okay. So this friend of mine's Don, I was telling you, but he came over as well and sitting down drinking coffee. And he sees him as well. And I told him what the French guy had said. So he was sort of checking him out as well. And that was sort of nothing more came of it. So I'd left Sanookville. I decided I'm leaving Sanookville. Put the shop up for rent so that I could get some more money back again. And I went out to Campbell. And about a month later, I'm sitting in Campbell, and Don arrives. He says, can I stay the night? Maybe stay a few days. I said, yeah, why? What's the problem? He says, I stabbed that and slashed that bastard, the paedophile. I said, what? He said, remember the guy you were talking about? He's a fucking paedophile. So I just slashed him and stuck the knife in his ass and fucking stabbed him in the neck. And he'll go to the cops, you know, he'll go to the police. So I want to hide out for a couple of days. And he drove, my friend had a big white Lexus. So he drove it in, it had a big yard also. He just parked it there. And I said, yeah, okay, you can stay. So he stayed for a couple of days. So that was another assault, but that was done by Don. And then sitting in the camp, I'd rented this house. I got it from the Minister of Culture. And I opened up a gallery and I started doing paintings underneath the house. And one day this couple walked in, a girl called Rosa and a boyfriend called Duka. And she was from Kazakhstan and he was from Moscow. And they asked me, you do any classes, you teach painting? I said, no, I don't actually teach, but if you want to paint something underneath the house, you're welcome to do so. And one of the paintings that I'd done underneath the house was the Prisoners Abroad logo. And she said, oh, Prisoners Abroad, why are you painting that? I says, oh, well, I read about them in magazines, you know. I didn't want to tell her I was in jail in China. And then I went upstairs. She said, yeah, I know Prisoners Abroad. I used to do work for them also, help them. And then she told me that she was a lawyer for the United Nations. Then she told me this story about how she worked in Sierra Leone and the fucking genocide and all sorts of mad killings and the trials. I think, whoa, it's really interesting. Top lawyer for the United Nations. Then her boyfriends tell me, oh, I'm a computer hacker. I think, some strange people walk through your door, you know. So
That's
started
a very,
chatting away to
very,
them.
a very important part of the story as well, Lockie. Chapter is called Accomplices, I'm sure. And this is
Yeah,
where it
that's
really
right.
changes. And because her high profile job in the government, she's got so much information on these predators, child abusers, paedophiles, and they start to leak that to you. And that's where it really takes a turn.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. They started chatting about it and telling me about it. She worked here and that she was going to get a job in Cambodia working with the abused. So I said, well, that's really nice and good story. She said, listen, you're welcome to come back anytime you want. So they just left. And then the following day they come back again and sat down chatting again, smoking a lot of weed. They really, especially Duka, the boyfriend, he really enjoys smoking a lot. And then they said to me, T.C. Campbell, your brother. What? Is T.C. Campbell your brother? I said, yes. How do you know? He said, we read it on the internet. And you were in jail in China for 15 years? Immediately I thought, these are fucking spies, you know? How do you know I was in China? We read it on the internet. I read the article. Ex-gangster brings karma to Cambodia's killing fields. I'm like, how do you know all these things? We read it on the internet. And I'm like, oh my God. Then that's when they started to open up about getting Rosa working, as I say, for UN, children being raped, abused, murdered, their families wiped out. And that's why she wanted to work here in Cambodia to, in some way, help or avenge these abuses. So then I said, well, actually, to be honest with you, I was sort of panicking, you know, because I didn't really want to tell them what I had done. And actually, I sort of hesitated. And then Rosa said to me, who's the spirit that lives in your house? I mean, this is just fucking 1, 2, 3, smack, smack, smack. T.C. Campbell, you're in prison in China. Who's the spirit that lives in your house? I said, there's no spirit that lives in my house. She said, yeah. She's up there. And I couldn't believe it. She said, it's okay. She says, I talk to them all the time. When I was in Sierra Leone, they used to contact me all the time. She said that sometimes, depending on how they die, there's no rest for them. They just float about and float about. I says, well, and it put me aback, you know. I was like stuttering, like, well, and I told them a story about getting into the cave and touching the spirits, touching the skull, and the spirit sort of getting into my body, and I took a bath and I looked down and there's a little girl there and there's nobody there when I try to see her. Then I just spilt the beans and told them about Conrad, and they didn't bat an eyelid. They seemed to be happy about it, right? So that's why we became accomplices. So she got a job in an NGO office for abused women and children. And then she came back one time and she had a list of people's name and where they lived. And she says, would you like to visit? Would you like to give one of them a visit? And it was not far from where I lived. I was in Campbell. It was roughly about an hour away, a place called Kep. And there was one guy there who had actually abused some school children. So I went out there to Kep and I drove around. I had the address, I passed by his house, but I didn't know what to do. So I just went back to Sanookville again. The following day, this guy from Australia, he came up to the house and I thought, I know this guy. He said, my name's Tim. I said, oh yeah, Tim. I met you in Sanookville at the Frog Shack. We were smoking some weed. He said, yeah. He said, listen, you want to smoke some crystal meth? And I was like, So he got out the crystal meth and put it in a little glass bowl, started smoking, and he passed it to me and I just took it. And immediately it was like really high and start smoking. And we just sat there all until like 5 o'clock in the morning smoking this crystal meth. And I just said, let me buy a couple of rocks because I'd been smoking all of his. So I bought a couple of rocks from him. Then he left and I was just lying spaced out. Oh my God, really spaced out my head. And again, the little voice comes, hey, you can go back to Kep. And I'm really stoned. And again, put on the robes, drove out to Kep. But I knew where the guy was working. So I went into Kep and I checked into a little guest house there. Lay about, had some snack, not much because I'd high on the speed, drank a lot of juices. And round about 5, I drove out in the motorbike towards his factory, a big factory. And before I'd gone, I'd actually went to his house and I seen his car there, he had a blue car. So I pulled my motorbike on the side of the road and then the factory started to come out and some motorbikes started to pass me, just passing by. Then eventually I saw his car. So I pushed my bike out more into the middle of the road as if I'd broke down. And he stopped, waiting for me to move, but I didn't move. So I just walked towards his car and I opened his door and again I had the garage. I went into the back seat, opened the back seat, wrapped it around his neck and started to choke him. He's kicking the dashboard and struggling and can nearly turned himself around to face me, but I just kept pulling. And eventually, again, foam came out of his mouth and he stopped kicking. And then I just got out of the car and I had a mantra again and I just stuck it in his ear, jumped on my motorbike and headed back to Campbell.
Such a crazy part of the story, Lockie, because this time you're doing it in broad daylight, out in the open. There's motorbikes passing. A car had pulled up behind the car that you'd done the killing in, and you've just jumped onto your bike with the Saffron on, the black motorbike, drove away, and then there's a witness there now saying, we saw a monk driving away on a black motorbike. And you travel on, you travel on from there.
Yeah, well,
and I'm sure
that's the problem is you're spaced out. I don't know if you've ever smoked crystal meth, but you're probably taking cocaine or you're probably taking amphetamine. Well, this
Yes.
stuff is like, I would say, 10 times stronger. It really gets you really, really high. And I'd been smoking it all night. So I was really spaced out, you know. And actually, I told you, I bought a couple of crystals. So I just took another little chase. But I didn't have the pipe because he took the pipe with him. I just done it on a bit of foil, smoked it, and then I back out. So really, I wasn't in the right state of mind. My mind, I don't know, my mind was, I don't know where it was, to be honest with you. I was just so spaced out. So like you said, it was so blatant. I mean, it was nearly 6 o'clock, so the sun was going down, but it was still clear enough to see. And wearing an orange robe, that was a big mistake, you know. The black motorbike, no problem, because there's lots of black motorbikes. But wearing the orange robe, that was a big mistake. And I went back to my house in Campbell, and I just lay spaced out all night. And that wee fucking spirit's like, yes, yes, you're helping to save the children of Cambodia, and you're taking revenge on the paedophiles and the child and the women abusers. And I'm actually talking to you. It's not just in my head. I'm saying, hey, go away, leave me alone. Look, just go away. I don't want to be bothered anymore. Just go away. And I just lay like that and lay like that in the morning. And I had somebody who came to the house and cleaned up the yards and stuff like that. A maid. So she came and made me a cup of tea, and I took it maybe 9, 10 o'clock. Went down, poured cold water all over myself, tried to refresh myself. Went back up, lay back on the bed again. I was still spaced out. And then that evening, or that afternoon actually, the guy in the next house to me, also Scottish, his name was Richard, and he came over and started chatting away, and he said, "Did you hear about the killing in Kep?" And I said, "No, no, I never heard anything." I said, "Somebody get killed in Kep, but don't know who it is." So I told him, I said, "Listen, I'm really tired. I'm not feeling too good today. I want to lie down." He said, "Yeah, okay. See you later. Bye bye." 5 minutes later, Duca and Rosa walk in. And oh my God, I'm really tired. He said, "Did you hear about that killing in Kep?" I said, "No, I never heard then." He said, "You never heard anything? Richard just left your house and he told us that he told you." So, caught, Then they went, "We know. Black motorbike, orange suit. I gave you an address in Kep. We know it was you. But why did you do it in the daytime? Why did you wear an orange suit?" And they were really critical. And I said, "Oh," and then I told them, "Oh, I was smoking crystal meth all night and my head was spaced out and that spirit was talking to me. And I don't know. I'm messed up. I'm just messed up. Just leave me. I want to lie down." So that was, again, killing somebody, but really stupid. The Conrad one also was a bit stupid because I'd met him. The hotel knew we checked in together. Then, well, I don't know if they knew, but they probably saw us going to the chicken shacks together. And then the cop in Phnom Penh, that wasn't too obvious, but it did become a bit obvious because the guy Gavin, he heard about it as well, but he hadn't mentioned it to me because he hadn't heard about it at that time. But by the time I get back to Sanookville, he had that news. So it was like I was doing this like a robot sort of thing, being moved and just following the instructions of this spirit. But the one in the Kep, it was just so obvious. So I was 100% sure they would know it was me. Because Richard, they know the orange suit, the black motorbike. Duca and Rosa doesn't matter. They're not going to say nothing. But it turned out they nothing happened. I never got arrested or
No,
anything.
and I think as well, it's because the three killings then, they all have the same MO. It's all the same traits. If there's
Yeah,
any
mantra
witnesses, it's
and
the,
all being strangled.
you know, and yes, so we know it's the same killer. But moving on for there, Lockie. So we're moving on to another chapter in the book, the dark web, which is a very important one as well.
Yeah, so everything went quiet for a couple of weeks. Then Duca come to my house and he says, the 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 killings have went viral in some places. He said, my friend in the dark web got some messages. I'm not really computer literate, but some blog in Japan where young people were committing suicide because of problems they were having at home or at school. And he said, and they want to come to Cambodia and take a paedophile or a sex offender's life, then commit suicide. And I said, what? Yeah, he's sitting telling me this. Duca's telling me, yeah, my friend, and there's Japanese people and they want to come out and they want to kill a sex offender or a paedophile and then they'll take their own life. I said, no, 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 I'm having nothing to do with that. What are you talking about? I mean, they're crazy. And Rosa was there. And she started getting this big story about uh, Japanese have a lot of pride and to take their life, the kamikaze pilots and, the harikiri, they kill themselves. And it's something of honor. And they don't want to dishonor their family. So by killing a sex offender, then killing themselves, they'll retain their honor. So she's backing up Duca and the dark web guy. And I'm thinking, this is going a little bit too far. I couldn't really take it in. And again, that spirit started telling me, oh, no, no, listen to Rosa. She knows what she's talking about. And I'm like, oh, my God. So I said, let me think about it. And then, I gave it some thought. And then maybe another day, Duca comes up and says, oh, got an email from the dark web. There's 3 Japanese coming to Sanukville. Do you want to go and meet them? And I'm saying, me? Go to meet them? Why should I go and meet them? He said, well, Rosa's busy. She's working. I said, well, you can go and meet them. Oh, no, I think it's better if you go and meet them. So I'm like, oh, my God. So I eventually agreed to it. I went down to Sanukville and I went to visit Don. As I say, he's got a big Lexus car. So, and the arrangement was to meet these people. I thought it was one person, actually. It was a Japanese girl. So I got Don to drive me down to this internet shop called Anna Internet. And we're sitting outside drinking coffee and the car pulls up and 3 Japanese people come out with small bags. I'm thinking, I thought it was supposed to be one. We introduced ourselves, 2 girls and one boy. And I said, okay, let's go. Took them to Campbell because I didn't know what to talk about. It was actually Rosa and the Duca and the dark web guys that had been doing the communication. I wasn't really aware of what was going on. And then we get back to Campbell and again waited till Rosa come back from her work and then she sat down talking to them. She'd already printed out a piece of paper and gave it to me and says, this is what they're going to do. And she'd already spoken to the girl. They didn't speak much English. They spoke very little English, but enough to understand. I think enough to understand what they were supposed to do. So he gives her the pieces of paper, and okay, their task was to go to again to Phnom Penh, and there was a woman who ran an orphanage there, and she was also selling children to brothels. So Dawn, me, the 2 girls, the guy stayed behind, and we drove to again. It's a long drive. Checked into a guest house, spent the night there, and then took the girls to the orphanage. And then we just drove. We said, okay, bye-bye. We just drove back to Campbell because they had their mission. Rosa gave them a piece of paper. This is this. So eventually, we get back to Campbell. The following day, Duca gets in touch with me, and it's in the newspapers that two Japanese girls jumped, held hands together, and jumped off a building in Phnom Penh. And they had some sort of a diaries in their pockets. And there was a woman, I can't remember her name, killed in her office, in an office. And they think that the case is linked. That was a newspaper article. Then the dark web guy got in touch with Duca and told him this had also gone viral. So what it turned out to be was the two girls had went to the orphanage, asked to speak with this lady, was taken into her office, and they killed her in the office. So they done the same thing. They strangled her and stabbed her,
I
just
think
killed her
in the book
and left her.
as well, I'm not sure, is that the one they cut her throat as well?
Yeah, that's it. They cut her. They sort of done that. They done quite a lot. I mean, I just wrote in the book. They did cut her throat, and strangled her, and spat on her, and kicked her. They just went crazy. And then they went up to a building and jumped off the building. But before they'd done that, they'd taken photographs and sent that killing onto social media. So it started to spread around social media. And then it went onto the web, and then, as I say, the dark web got it and then shared all that information with Duca. But as I say, I wasn't really involved. Well, I was involved in part that I was there taking them to there, but in the actual killings, no. But it started to go viral, and the dark web guy said there's so many more, and there's more and more people contacting him that they want to join and they want to come out to Cambodia and kill a paedophile or a woman abuser or a sex offender. And it was getting a bit much for me, and I thought, I need to get away from this because, I mean, it started off with the spirit girl in Batam Bang, and I'm thinking, then I done what she sort of encouraged me to do. But then I was thinking, oh my God, that was crazy because maybe the cops will catch me. And then again, the cop in Phnom Penh. And, I was exposing myself. I was too open. But maybe because I was in Cambodia and it's a third world country, they wouldn't investigate the way they would in the West,
I'll now take you into the other chapter, a display trophy. If you can talk me through that, Lockie.
Well, I told you about the two girls. They also arrived with a guy, but he stayed back. And Rosa came with another piece of paper and asked him, could he go to this place, Batam Bang? That's where my story started. If you remember, I went to Batam Bang, that was to the retreat. Well, she had a sex offender who was living there and wanted the Japanese guy to go there. So again, this time I didn't go, but Tom took him. And they go off. I'm sitting in my hut, my wee house, smoking, relaxing, went to my bed. Woke up the next morning, around about 10, 11 o'clock. I got a phone call from Don. She says, I'm coming, I'm heading to your house. I say, yeah, okay then, I'll wait for you. But so, what happened? He said, I'll tell you when I get there. So he arrives at my house and sits down and he says, Lockie, you're not going to believe this. See that young Japanese guy? He must have been totally crazy. I said, what happened? He got a hold of the guy, wrapped he said, I'm not sure if it was fishing wire or whatever type of wire. he wrapped it around the guy's neck and nearly cut his head off. Killed him, he killed him by nearly cutting his head off with the wire. And then he cut his dick off. Cut the guy's dick off. Stuck it in his mouth, the guy's mouth. Then he got wire again, and then the young guy just hung himself. I said, what? Are you sure? He said, look, I didn't even know about it. He said, I just got back here this morning. It was Duca who told me. I said, he got a hold of the guy, wrapped a wire around his neck, nearly cut his head off and choked him to death, then cut his dick off and stuck it in the guy's mouth. Then he hung himself. He said, yeah, that's it. I went, oh my God, this is really getting fucking too far out of it, you know. So that's what happened with that guy. Because I wasn't involved in any way. I never went in on the car or anything. But of course I knew what was happening, but I didn't know in which way he would be doing it. So that's that part of that chapter. So the two Japanese girls and the Japanese, and then, as I told you, the Japanese girls jumped from the building. They put it on social media. The Japanese guy, I told you what he done, and then that was in the local newspapers. And I don't know how the communication worked out, but that information either got from the dark web to Duca. Duca told Tom, and then Tom came out and told me.
So see, what chapter was it when Juno and Hannah appeared?
Yeah.
Is that what the chapter's called?
Yeah, that's quite an odd one because what happened, they were Korean, and what had happened was there was four of them, four Koreans, and they had been told about this woman. I don't know if I've already told this, but if I've not, just if I have, let me know. And there was this woman in a group taking children to their house in Phnom Penh again and abusing children. So Rosa gave them the information, and the four of them, four Koreans, went up to Phnom Penh, and I was there as well with Don, and we couldn't. We located the place, and one of the Koreans went to the door, knocked on the door, but there wasn't any answer. We couldn't, and we didn't know when these people were going to come, and we didn't want to sit out in the car outside all the time. So Don went out, went round the back of the house, opened a window, went in the window, came to the front door, opened the door, and then they brought us in. So we all just went into the house, and we're just sitting about, waiting for these people to arrive. We didn't know when they were going to arrive. And in one of the rooms, it was like a sex room, you know, dildos and vibrators and stuff like that scattered about the dressing table in the room. So we just sat there and lay about for a couple of hours. Then we heard the car pulling into the driveway. So we all hid. Don stood behind the door to one side, and then the door opened and they came in, and then we just pounded on them, and we had tape and all that ready. Don wrapped the tape around it. She was screaming, you know, and he's got the tape around her mouth. We bound up their hands, taped their mouths, and they come in with a wee boy. So again, me and Don just took the boy and left the Korean guys in there. And again, the next thing we know is go back to Kampot. Again, the next day, in the newspapers, that these people had their guts slit open and all their intestines and all that taken out, and blood splattered all over the wall, and the intestines all over the place. And they'd also left a message that, you know, paedophiles will be hunted down. And two of them were found drowned in a river. Another one of them was outside a temple, and because there are lots of Buddhist temples in Cambodia, and he'd been found outside the temple. He'd cut his wrists and his throat. So this was all in a newspaper. But the fourth one wasn't there. There was no mention of the fourth one. So I think, what the hell's going on here? And that was it. We never heard anything. We just knew that they'd cut their guts out, wrapped the guts around their neck, and a really, really savage killings, you know. And then, as I say, two of them found in the river, the other one found outside the temple, and the other one disappeared. And then Duca was in town, and he's walking about, and he sees the guy. He walks up and says, hey, hello. He just got freaked out and was just wandering about, you know. So we didn't know what to do. We were terrified. So the guy for the dark web said to Duca, send him back to Korea. And there's somebody there that he could kill. So there's a soldier in the base, and he'd been abusing girls. So that's what he did. He went back to Korea, and he met up with his little girlfriend Hannah, and she was just a plain sort of a girl. She was getting bullied at school as well because of all the K-pop, you know, fashionists and stuff like that. And he'd already been gone for weeks, and his parents, nobody knew where he was. So when he turned up back home, everybody was delighted. So and then he said to his girlfriend, look, he told her everything that had happened. And he said that he's got to go to Busan. There's a soldier down there, and my mission is to kill him. And she agreed to go with him. So both of them went down to Busan, and he went to the base, and the guy went into a bar, and he told Hannah to get into the bar and try and entice him to come out. But the guy wasn't interested. She was just a plain Jane sort of thing. So she left, and then they went back to the little guest house where they were staying in. Then the following morning, he went to a print shop, and they got all these things printed out like Big Pharma is corrupt, Big Pharma is selling drugs to people in the world, is killing them, and Americans are invading Afghanistan, and wars in this country. And the banking systems are making people lose their houses. Just all the sort of current events going on at that time in the world, like war and Big Pharma, and selling cancer drugs that people couldn't afford. And he'd got it all printed out and made big posters there. And then he went back to the base to see if he could get the guy. And he told Hannah, you film everything. If I can get this guy, you film everything. So before he went there, he went into a mountaineer shop, and he bought a grappling axe or a pickaxe. And he went out, and he saw the soldier walking along the road, heading to the same bar. And instead of waiting, he just ran up behind the guy and just stuck the pickaxe right in his seat, just whacked him, kept whacking him and whacking him. And there were still people passing in the street on the same side of the road and the opposite side. And he just kept whacking the guy, and the guy eventually fell down. And he put his feet on top of the guy's chest, and then he held up the pieces of paper like this. And his girlfriend had a ski mask on. So his girlfriend started filming it all. And then he ran off, and she went in a different direction. And then later on that evening, back at the little guest house, they met up again. And again, all the footage that they had, they shared that on social media, different social media platforms. Then he went back to Korea, and it was in the newspaper, the social media and the newspapers and TV, everything was talking about it. But on social media, it was getting like people were celebrating, like he done like he was a hero, you know. Of course, the police and other investigating parties would try and arrest him for killing somebody. But they couldn't identify him because they didn't know who he was. And another thing that he done was he got one, I don't know what it's really called, but it's a SIM card. And you can't get traced on it. So that's what they used to send the messages. And then he just went back to his country, and that was the last I'd heard about it. The only thing I heard about it was Duca telling me that he'd become a sort of a celebrity on social media. So that was that story. That was a crazy one. That was the one. And people all over the world, they were like protesting outside Big Farmer and stuff like that. Once that went viral, people started to hit the streets and, support what he had done.
Moving towards nearing the end of the story, so there's another chapter there, and it's Dawn in Korea. Can you take me to that?
Yeah, that's the second last chapter. So I told you my mate Don, he was doing a lot of the driving around and taking us to places, and I told you they already slashed this paedophile outside the little shop. He came to visit me in Campbell, and it's just a strange story. Rosa says, because of this dark web stuff, there's blogs here and blogs there, and Rosa said there's a woman in Korea, her daughter killed herself. And we're saying, yeah, what are you telling that to us for? What's that got to do with sex abuse and paedophiles? She said, well, actually, the mother had actually read a blog that the daughter had made before she actually killed herself, that she had been sexually abused by the school teacher in her class, in her school. So Rosa thought, got the dark web to keep in touch with the lady, and then she spoke to Don and said, would you go to Korea? He's thinking, wow, go to Korea, it's a bit far away, and the girl actually took her own life. Yeah, but she was sexually abused and the mother's broken hearted, and she feels that she can't rest until something gets done. So for whatever reason, Don decided to go, and he went to Korea, and he met up with this woman, and she was in the army. She was an army officer. And she was quite nice looking, and Don really likes nice looking women, and they started chatting and went out for a meal together and stuff like that. Then he arranged to meet her. The lady says that the class is going camping at the weekend, and we can intercept him on the road. And John says, yeah, okay. And how are you going to kill him? And she had a gun. She said, I'm going to shoot him. So Don was like, okay, I mean, he likes strong, independent women, So he just went along with it. And then they drive out into the countryside, and they wait about, let's say, a couple of 100 yards from this entrance into this campground area. And eventually, she knew the name of the car, the make of the car, and stuff like that. And they parked on the side of the road, and the car started coming along. And then Don stepped out onto the road, like to stop the car, maybe it could help to repair. It's a breakdown sort of thing. That was their plan. And the guy stopped. And as he stopped, the woman came out of the back seat of the car and walked towards the car of the other driver, the guy who abused his daughter. And he recognised her and went, he sort of took that shot, and then she just took the gun, bang, 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 shot him about 6 times, left him dead on the road, and then they just drove back to Seoul, and then checked into the hotel. He had already checked into the hotel, but she was that excited and elated, they ended up spending the night together. So that was another killing. Again, nothing really planned except for the mother reading a blog, and then the dark web following up on it, contacting Rosa asking Don, and he just did it. So that was another person eliminated, you know. So it was strange. The whole story originally starts in Cambodia, and now it's going out to places like Korea. And there was other things that happened, but people can read that in the book if they're interested, because it's too long a story, if you know what I mean.
Definitely,
And then at the
Lockie.
end
So,
up, to end up the story was sitting back in Campbell, and me, Duca, and Rosa, just me, Duca, and Rosa sitting in my house smoking some joints. And Rosa says, "You know, there's a court hearing going on for the Khmer Rouge and the killings during the occupation, where the Khmer Rouge try to make a genocide in Cambodia. And there's a trial going on in Cambodia because her friend from the UN gave her that information. And we were just sitting in the house, and Rosa says, maybe I should go and have a look at it. But actually, during that conversation also, she told me that, oh, I'm pregnant. She was pregnant, right? I thought, that's great. She says, tomorrow I'm going to go to the hospital and get checked out. So the following day she went to the hospital, and then she'd come back again, and we were sitting again smoking. She told me, at the hospital, maybe 10 spirits were getting in touch with me, saying you have to go to that court hearing, and you have to tell the spirit that's in your friend's house. And she's telling me this, and we're sitting listening, and Duca's going, he's thinking, he's no part of the conversation. It's just me and her talking. And then the little spirit girl's there also. And then it was decided that I should go tomorrow, the next morning, to the guy's house. They've got his address. His address was in Campo, not really far, maybe 10, 15 minutes from where I live. So I jump on the motorbike and I'm driving there, come to this field. It grows, what do you call them, a pepper field, growing peppers. And I'm walking along a path, then I go along another path, and I see this house, a big sort of a colonial styled house it was. And I'm walking around the side, and I see this old guy sitting in a chair outside, bent over like this. His face was all scabs, and his nose and his ears was all scabs. He was sort of a decrepit look. It was just syphilis sores all over him. And the young spirit girl's beside me. And I'm thinking, okay. And she says, that's the one who killed my parents. That's the one. He killed my parents. And I thought, okay, then. Got the garrote in my hand. I said, I'm going to kill him. And she said to me, don't kill him, don't kill him. I'm thinking, don't kill him? I thought you said he's the one that killed your parents. Yeah, but if you look at him, he's going to die soon. And he's going to suffer every moment. He's covered in scabs, syphilis sores all over. And he like shorts on, his legs were all scabs as well. He says, he'll suffer and he will die in pain. Don't kill him. So that took me by surprise. So I just turned around, left, got on the motorbike, went back to Campoa. Nothing happened, sitting around. And then next day, a week passes. She's never contacted me again. And that was the last I ever heard of her. She totally disappeared. So she eventually got to meet her parents' killers and decided not to kill him, but let him die suffering. And basically that's how the story more or less ends like that. But there's another little bit at the end. I told you Rosa was pregnant. And then she has her child. Brings the child to my house, and I'm holding the baby. And it holds onto my pinky. And I just looked at the baby and I thought, and I just had this clear feeling That was the spirit girl. She'd been reincarnated into Rosa's child. And that's how the story ends.
Such a powerful story, Lockie. So many different stories in there, but there's something I wanted to ask you before we finish up on this episode. So when you were speaking to me about the Saffron assassin doing the murders, there was so much detail there. It's like only the killer would know these things. The kicking of the legs, the foaming out the mouth, the last breath. Did you really kill these people?
A bit of hesitation there. No, I didn't kill them. I can't incriminate myself. They still have, Interpol is still in operation. So if I told you that I'd actually done any of these crimes, which I didn't do all of, oh my God, I'm confessing. I was going to say I didn't do all of them because there was Japanese and Koreans involved as well. But actually, with me, I did feel like I'm talking to you about Conrad and see if the bitches have got any pups and stuff like that. I really did want to murder him. That's the truth of the matter. But I can't confess because this podcast could go viral around the world. And then people will be saying, or people will be saying, oh, he's a fantastic guy. And other people will be saying, he's a fucking murderer. So I'm going to have to answer that question with no.
I'll take your word for it, Lockie. But I would say as well, your books are available on Amazon. Some fascinating stories from the banged up abroad all the way to the Saffron assassin. I can consider you now as a good friend of mine. It's been such
definitely.
an amazing episode, mate. Just to sit and listen to your experiences throughout your life. It's been really, really amazing. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the show as well, Lockie.
Yeah, you're welcome, mate. It's good to be able to get some of it out of your system. And as I said, like both books, I can't give you all the details because there's too many chapters in it. But if people are interested in reading the full story, as you told them, it's available on Amazon. And if they do buy it, I'd appreciate if they left a little review after they've read it.
Brilliant, Lockie. Thanks again, mate. And I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
Okay, mate. Take care.